I'd like to introduce Future Proof Me, who have joined with us in this parent series in the thought leadership of how we are equipping our children and our students for the needs of the future. And a lot of our speakers have spoken around what the future skill set should or could look like. And Future Proof Me are a company that are giving real solutions to how we get our students and our children into that space. Alan, I'd like to hand over to you to give a little bit of further information around Future Proof Me.
Thanks, Didi, and thank you to iStore Education for the opportunity.
I think you're on mute, Alan. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? There we go. There we go. So much for technology. You see, I'm still using the old school wire. My name is Alan Tate from a company called Future Proof Me. We effectively help make people more employable. So whether your children are in grades 9 to grade 12 or university students or even in the workplace, we understand what the future jobs are. We've partnered with some of the top technology companies, i.e. iStore and Apple. And some of the other tech companies. We also have partnered with employers, so we understand what employers are looking for, and we also then provide strategists and mentors to our students to make sure that they obviously are studying the correct things and they are moving in the right direction as well. So we offer one-year programs, and we make sure that when you finish school or when you finish university or college or any kind of tertiary education, that we provide you with additional skills to make sure that you're ready for the world of work. I'll leave it at that. We're not wanting to pitch. I think the idea is we'd like to get into finding out what Lego Education obviously has on offer. So that's it from my side. Thanks.
Thanks, Alan. I'd like to just remind everyone, please make use of the chat. Any questions and answers, feel free to chat all the way through. In some of our other sessions, we've had people as far away as France and London join us. So please, if you are joining us from somewhere wonderfully exciting, please let us know as well. So make use of the chat as much as you would like to, and we will definitely have time for questions and answers at the end of the session. Tom is the General Manager for Lego Education based in London. Tom is going to speak to us this afternoon on the benefits of hands-on learning with those little blocks that we've all learned to love over the years. So Tom, over to you.
Thank you, Didi. And I'm just going to share some slides here. So let me just get into that. We don't use Zoom in my office, so I'm just making sure that I do this right.
No, it's looking good on this side so far.
Good. All right.
Here we go.
Thank you for having me, first of all. And it's a pleasure to join you in South Africa. In a wonderful world, I'd love to be there in person to see you. But virtual will be good enough for now. And I hope when the world is slightly more mobile, I'll be down there in person one day. Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time, probably at the end of a long day at home or a long day at school or work. It's a privilege to get some of your time before switching off for the day. My name's Tom Hall. As Didi said, I'm responsible for our international business in Lego Education. And that means that I'm taking our Lego bricks and learning solutions out to classrooms and schools all over the world. If you told my kind of 14-year-old self that I would be working in a business committed to the advancement of science and technology skills, I probably wouldn't have believed you. I wasn't the strongest science student. My school reports will lay testament to that. And I didn't really concentrate as hard as I wished I had done in my science education, which is ironic given the role I have today, which is all about encouraging the adoption of STEAM programs in global schools, because I genuinely feel and believe from the data and the evidence that this will make a massive difference to how children are confident in their wider learning and how we get them ready for entering the world of work. So let me share a few ideas with you about that. And as Dee Dee said, please throw questions or input through the chat. I can't see the chat feature as I'm presenting, but I'd love it if someone could throw out questions if they come in. So let's get going. A lot of people, when they hear about Lego education, will often say, tell me more, because, you know, we love the bricks, and I live in a house and an office that's full of bricks, and it's a total privilege to do that. I grew up with Lego bricks myself. I spent the first part of my career working in more traditional education companies. And then when the opportunity came up to come and talk to Lego education, I jumped at the chance, because you know, very few companies have this incredible, globally known, recognized, and incredibly tactile brick that can unleash a world of creativity and building opportunities. And working for Lego education, we're part of the Lego group. Lego sells toys and experiences all over the world, and we have our experience parks, and we're part of the Kirkby family businesses. We're still family owned. We also connect into the Lego Foundation, which is a charitable arm of the Lego group, which focuses on the research and advancement of learning through play. And they cycle that research and those findings back through all of the products that we develop for classrooms and homes all over the world. We're united in that group mission by a very simple mission, which is to inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. It's super simple, and we genuinely mean it, and it gets us up every day. I thought it might help as we kick off a conversation about education today to sort of call out the very obvious elephant in the room, which is that, you know, we're talking about classrooms in a time of unprecedented change. I've worked with some of the colleagues on this phone line in previous organizations where we talked about change in education. Honestly, nothing that we've seen in our professional careers to date in any industry has prepared us for what we've just sat through for the last 20 months, and we're still going through in many ways. COVID-19 has brought rapid, unexpected changes to classrooms overnight. The human and the societal toll has been enormous, and it's forced our education systems to fundamentally rethink their entire delivery model, and it's made us as a world reconsider, always for the better, I believe, the role of the teacher and the educator in our lives and in our ability to get on with our lives. But it's put the education system under enormous pressure, and it's made the rate of adaptation speed up exponentially. I think it's exposed massive gaps, massive needs that may have been sort of small cracks before, but have become much bigger chasms. And it's shone a light on the role that parents, teachers, and education companies play in really engaging children for the bulk of their week in meaningful experiences. And what's really happened over the last 20 months have been some forced breaks that have really made us question, how will that develop in the future, and what does great look like? So we've come through a very intense 2 years, and I wanted to kind of take a quick look at the biggest changes the pandemic has sort of driven, and changes that we then as parents, as educators, as creators of learning experiences really have to embrace and act with urgency around. I think the first one is, you know, the equity divide. If there was an unfair advantage in education quality and delivery and opportunities between the wealthy and less fortunate children before COVID, the equity divide has only been increased by lockdowns, school closures, hybrid models. Because if children have been stuck at home in environments where parents may both be key workers or have been badly adversely affected by lockdowns in their own careers, their education opportunities have only got worse and more challenging. And they're falling behind in the rate at which they can keep up with what was already a challenge with more fortunate children. Lack of access to hardware, lack of connectivity in their homes. We have kind of increased, or we've seen increase, the gap between the rich and the poor over the last 20 months. And we can hope that system adaptations right now are going to address that. And we see lots of encouraging signals in many markets that that is the case. But I don't think any of us should kid ourselves that that isn't going to be a long-lasting, deep societal risk because of the ultimate shutdown of service that we've seen in many children's formative years when their learning should have been at its richest. It's actually been at its poorest. That kind of leads into, but is also a separate issue, the whole process of social emotional well-being. 2020 and 2021, whether you're 40 or 14 or 4, it's been disruptive, it's been depressing, it's been hugely alarming, it's been scary. And for children in school, social and emotional well-being has definitely suffered. As a parent myself, I've observed changes in how my children process emotions or concerns about what's going on in the outside world. We've seen our children exposed to global worries that I don't think in previous times would, apart from sort of one-off sort of war conditions, they would have been exposed to. We've really created a surge, or we've seen create a surge and a wave of anxiety across many parts of society. When I've sort of been in schools and I've seen lots of research coming out of the first wave of children going back into school, having been in lockdown or having been in hybrid learning conditions, or just having been impacted by the worries that they can feel in the air around them at home or in school, we've seen that there is evidence that levels of anxiety and loneliness have only increased as students have sort of struggled with processing what's going on around them. They have maybe over-indexed into digital devices as they've been locked down or shut down behind their four walls of their home. I've read, reports of children coming back into school with sort of overstimulated hands from having been on video games literally all day long, and completely ruined attention spans because they've lost that ability to focus on deep processes and deep conversations because of this very heightened stimulation that they've been getting from digital first gaming and tools. We've seen that struggling as children have come back during 2020. I think it's an ongoing struggle through 2021. And for me, that only really reinforces what should be at the heart of any society, which is a total respect and deep trust of an education system to cater for the development and the well-being of our young people. School is an essential, sort of an absolutely fundamental part of delivering thoughtful, well-informed, well-rounded individuals into societies as they progress through their education. And I hope if there's anything that comes out of the pandemic that's positive, it will be this reconsideration of the role of the teacher and the reconsideration of the role of the education institution. We've seen school systems take out exams, so students are progressing through schools without having to be tested. Some people will think that's great. It's also not giving children structure or standard gateposts that they've become very used to in previous generations. But maybe that will lead to a reassessment and a reconsideration of what testing and standardization and monitoring of progress really looks like. So maybe something positive can come out of that. We certainly hope so. Thirdly, I think, for us as a learning company that focuses on hands-on learning, when the pandemic first struck, the first few months were very challenging because, of course, if you're not in school, you're very unlikely to be engaging in any kind of physical learning. It was all digital. And then when schools reopened, teachers and administrators quite naturally had very real and understandable concerns and questions about hygiene and the thoughts of hands-on learning. We were confident that we could address those very early on, and we shared kind of very clear rules and sort of thoughts around how to ensure hygiene and standards in a hands-on learning environment. And we're very confident that schools have now seen hands-on learning as an essential way to re-engage those kids who are coming back. I talked about the boys and the girls coming back from lockdown with sort of hyper stimulated minds and hands from video games and gaming consoles. Actually putting a physical building and learning experience in those same hands and asking children to sit back, take a breath, and start to go through a process-driven project build has been something that we've seen, highly cathartic, but also highly meaningful to get children back engaged with their learning. I personally feel really proud and committed to the work that we can do in addressing those social emotional challenges that children may be coming back to school with. And it's made us sort of double down on our confidence in the belief that when hands-on learning, particularly in science subjects, is rolled out in a way that is appealing and engaging to children, you really can reconnect and reopen those minds that have been temporarily pretty limited or shut down to very different kinds of experiences. We've seen hands-on learning being used as a way of really re-engaging children, letting them work things out, letting them get back a sense of control and process because the build is literally in their hands, and letting them build that confidence in their learning. We've done lots of research over the years into, what does developing STEAM skills give children, and what does it create in terms of their educational process? I'll share some data studies with the team, and maybe they can share them out post this call. But one great statistic we know from a poll we did with teachers in 2019 from the USA, Russia, China, Germany, and the UK, is that when students feel confident in their STEAM learning, that is learning around science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths, when they've got some confidence from those projects that they've done, from those collaborative learning processes, they're going to feel twice as confident in learning in their other subjects. So it's a contagious confidence that comes from STEAM confidence. You take it out into the other things that you're attacking. And I think that's a great proponent and a reason to feel really confident about putting STEAM into schools and classrooms today. But this is all really important because, not only has the pandemic changed the world in many awful ways for the last 18, 20 months, it's also fast tracking the rate of technology that is being rolled out in homes and public sector and in schools. And that, of course, is coming from an industry that is in many sectors, fast tracking so rapidly that it's almost unrecognizable. And I guess we talk a lot in education about the rate, the pace of change that's going on in industry. Basically, we as educators and as parents and as a society, we need to make sure that the education system is fit for purpose and that it is training our children with the skills that are actually going to be useful for them to not only find a job, but find meaning in their work and go in feeling that they are prepared to be on global collaboration projects that are going to demand a huge range of soft, technological and hard skills that really many education systems today are not delivering in a strong enough way. COVID's, sort of accelerated the rate of change. But we've known for a long time that the workplace of the 21st century was changing rapidly. You know, I think there are some pretty startling statistics out there around, you know, the workplace of the future. 65% of jobs that children in today's primary school are going to be doing haven't been created yet. There isn't a job title for them yet. And if we think about school 20 years ago for us, I doubt many of us would have singled out the job titles that we see in organizations today, you know, thinking about social media managers or data architects or cloud software engineers. And that's 20 years of change. This is happening much, much faster. And so kids who are in primary school today, 8 to 10-year-olds, by the time they get into the workplace in 12, 13 years' time, 65% of the jobs that they're going to be doing will have brand new job titles that we as aging workers are not going to recognize because they just don't exist yet. There's tons of megatrend data going around there, but ultimately, progression in technology, advancement and innovation in what's needed is not being in which societies are going to need to handle massive issues of climate challenges and commerce and the types of industry and innovation that we want as consumers. If we as an education industry don't prepare kids for those jobs, not only will we shortchange those kids and they won't have meaningful work to do, but actually we'll be suffering as a society because there won't be enough people to do the meaningful work that's out there. So things are happening super fast. And I would just say in brief, from an education sector and coming off the back of COVID, I think we've got to take the good from the really horrible experience that this global pandemic has put us all through. And so the fact that there is renewed focus and energy for change in the education sector, we have to take as a good thing. We're going to have to need to equip students with the confidence to become lifelong learners and adopt a growth mindset, because the world is not going to stay still and it's moving at an ever more rapid pace. And we at Lego Education genuinely believe that equipping children with skills and confidence in hands-on learning is going to play a critical role in enabling and embedding 21st century skills. And those 21st century skills are what's going to be needed most in the workplace of tomorrow. So, you know, a little bit about what we mean when we talk about hands-on learning and we talk about learning through play. Learning through play as a teaching and a mindset is absolutely central to what we do at Lego Education and at Lego Group and at all of the Lego entities that I showed you just now. So Lego takes a holistic view of children's development and learning, because it is complex, right? You know, we want to understand how children develop their physical, their social, their cognitive, creative, and emotional skills, and how these then complement and interact with one another so that children are, you know, feel a sense of balance and curiosity, and they feel enabled to go and attack the opportunities that are out there. At Lego, you know, we believe that all children should be equipped with those lifelong skills for the future to enable them to thrive in the 21st century. And that if we don't play our part in that, we're not fully playing our part in social growth. And we give ourselves this big target because as a company, Lego's been going for 90 years next year, Lego Education for 41 years. We've set ourselves this big ambition of developing, because, you know, our research shows that when children play, they're also learning. And we want to help them do this so that when they do go out into their futures, they feel like they've been fully equipped and they're ready for everything that life is going to throw at them. So, you know, what does that look like in a classroom? I come from, you know, an education career. I loved school myself. Like I said at the beginning, I wasn't the best science student, but I was very lucky that I had a great school environment, and I loved the process of getting into new information. And I was an art kid. I loved books and I loved history and literature. And because, you know, I'm talking about hands-on learning and STEAM, that's not saying that we believe in a, you know, we're proposing a future where we rip up all of the facts and the textbooks and knowledge retention. Building knowledge is always going to be important and essential. You know, to have knowledge, to understand concepts, you need knowledge. To learn language rules, you need knowledge. To be able to navigate where we are in 2021 and where we've come from in relation to world history and geography, you need knowledge. To be able to analyze information, to read properly and to comprehend, to be able to write and respond to information, you need knowledge. So trust me when I say that, you know, acquisition of core knowledge is always going to be important, but it needs to be paired with experience. And the problem and the challenge with outdated traditional education systems is for too long it's just been, you know, teacher at the front, kids in the classroom. I throw lots of information at you as a teacher, I expect you to retain it and then splurge it back to me in an exam. And honestly, I think we need to be more serious about developing skills so that we have some flexibility in how we go about facing challenges, because the workforce, the workplace industry is throwing out challenges and opportunities far quicker than anything that previous generations of students and then workers have had thrown at them. You know, we want to develop what we call, you know, a T-shaped person. So having specialization skills and specialization that's complemented by knowledge and skills outside of that area. We want expertise, yes, but also really to encourage breadth of skills, breadth of interest, breadth of knowledge and confidence. And I think you get that when you work in a classroom or an environment where you are expected, to look at critical, complex problems, where you're expected to show your thinking around a variety of challenging ideas, and that drives the critical thinking. You're expected to show your creativity because you might not have all the facts about a subject, but with creativity, you can really think about, well, how would I approach this if I had this come at me? Collaboration and emotional intelligence, they're so important, and learning to work with peers and colleagues is so important in school to set you up for a future where collaboration, both in companies, in societies, cross borders, is more important than ever. And I think the big one here for me is resilience. This is a skill, as a muscle, as a mindset, is, I think, transformational, whether you, again, are 14 or 41 or 85. You know, resilience is the strength to learn from a failure, to get back up, and to have the confidence and the energy to try again and again, taking the failures and the learnings that you've just got from that and applying them in a different way and wrapping up these skills that you've developed. So that's, you know, sort of the perspective on knowledge. And then the power of learning through play at school. You know, we've done research through the Lego Foundation on learning through play, and we're really confident that it offers a host of benefits to kids, teachers, and education systems. The evidence that supports this is strong, but still many education systems around the world are unsure about how to implement playful learning opportunities, or an increased emphasis on structured approaches to learning through play in their systems. For me, I would just say it's very simple learning through play. And I've listed them out here, the sort of the 5 characteristics of learning through play and the benefits that it drives. So, you know, when you play, you engage. And by engage, I mean, you know, you're current and you're present and your brain is switched on, and you're watching for signals from your fellow players and roles. So you're actively engaged. You know, through that, you demonstrate motivation and commitment. The process of play is joyful. You know, play is fun. It is inherently joyful. And when you enjoy something, it makes you feel able and confident about what it is that you're learning. Playful learning is meaningful. So when you can see that you are engaged in something that has an outcome and that you can have an influence on, it drives sustained engagement. It gives you a chance for deeper learning. And through that comes better retention. Playful learning is also inherently social. So sure, you can build Lego and have a ton of fun by yourself, but more hands around the table. You'll all know this if you've used this in your own childhood or if you have young people at home. This is something that the more hands come down to the table, the more fun it can be. Building and learning through play is socially interactive. And through that, as you start to look up and talk to your fellow builders and you pick your roles of, are you the builder? Are you the instructor? Are you the checker? That develops interpersonal communication and social skills. And then learning through play and playful learning is iterative, right? You can build something and decide that you don't like the final 20% and you take it off and you start again, or you smash the whole thing and you start again. You can start with 6 bricks and make millions of versions with those 6 bricks. So, learning through play, and particularly learning with Lego, it encourages exploration. It encourages this trial and error approach. And you know what? If it breaks, you can always rebuild it. And that builds the resilience that I was just talking about. So hands-on learners, they do acquire knowledge through experience rather than just abstract note-taking. And from personal experience, that helps me immensely. That leads to better retention. Learning through play, you get these meaningful, joyful experiences, and that creates memories and builds up confidence. It stimulates your creativity. And when you are engaged in hands-on learning, we can show that performance and confidence across STEAM subjects, you build up better performance across STEAM subject matters. So, this is how we look at the benefits and the very simple evidence of learning through play at school. Now, it offers many benefits, but to be honest, it won't happen overnight. So learning through play offers, clear learning benefits in classrooms, in families, in social systems, in industry. But you need to have some pretty simple enablers in place. Firstly, school systems have to embed innovation into their mainstream curriculum. And this won't deliver itself. So when learning through play and learning through play solutions are made available through mainstream curriculum, and children can see, this is the part of maths that I was really struggling with, but my teachers just explained how to sort of land that concept using bricks or using physical objects. That's when you start to really connect the learning process to a clear outcome that you're trying to develop. We need to see equitable investment into technology infrastructure. So I'm talking about Lego education systems. I'm holding bricks because this is sort of the cornerstone of any Lego build experience. But in Lego education, we also bring in motors and sensors and hubs because we want to get kids building and making things move and making ideas literally come to life. If this is going to work in a wide system, you need a government, a system, a school chain to be buying into it, and they have to really believe that this is something that can lift their education outcomes. You need to see technology switched on in schools so that Wi-Fi is working in order for the hub to turn on. You need to see fair and equitable spread of investment across the region. A really big one for me is professional development of teachers. I would say, and I'm sure as members of society or even in your businesses that you work in, if the key enablers of a new program have not been at the design table of a new initiative, very often it's going to fail because they're your biggest stakeholders. They're the people that are going to bring this, big new idea to life. And if you don't have them on board, it's pretty guaranteed that things will fail and fall through the cracks. So for us, we really encourage and propone for any investment into hands-on learning, you've got to bring your teachers with you, and you've got to make sure that they feel confident and trained to deliver great STEAM learning experiences in their classrooms, which requires an investment into professional development. When we did our study that I mentioned back across Japan, Germany, US, Russia, UK, we really looked into how confident teachers feel. And the results showed us that, when confidence strengthened with a position on hands-on learning, teachers feel really superpowered and supercharged. When you don't give them that training in place to take out a new program, it can be intimidating, and it can be something that is seen as a much bigger challenge. So when it does work, it's fantastic. And 95% of teachers who we spoke to believe that hands-on learning builds confidence in their students. 93% of the parents that we spoke to in those same markets believe that hands-on learning helps children retain knowledge for the future. And it's a very similar number among students. So if you want your kids to be confident builders, you've got to work with teachers first. And then finally, I single out here the growing role and influence of parents in education, development, and evolution. I guess you could say that the pandemic heightened this in many cases, and I would put myself in this, it's not something we would have chosen to have our children in the house through a school day, apparently being educated by us while we also went out to work. So parents have had not just a snapshot, but a pretty sustained view into their children's education for much of 2020, and in some markets still through 2021. They're more aware than ever of how their children learn and what they learn, and they're going to have ideas about what would be an improvement. I think you parents are going to play a much more involved role going forwards. I'm not sure any of you would put your hands up to homeschool all over again, but I'm pretty sure that you'd have an opinion on what's being rolled out in your kid's school or in your state or in your country. And I hope that you'll see that if we really want kids to be ready for a future that is changing at the rate of knots and is going to demand not just the same skills as before, but a huge breadth of skills and confidence, we need to, systems need to hear your voices in what is needed. And I hope that you, with your own industry experience, will be speaking up for change and innovation and a fundamental modernization of how teaching is delivered. I'll just finally kind of wrap up, what I see these 21st century skills as. It's this ability to show critical thinking, to challenge and really look at assumptions and the confidence to question and think again. This idea around problem solving. So 21st century skills really focuses on going and working through project-based learning to solve a challenge. That's a brilliant skill set, because if you can master that in school, it's going to make so many aspects of your professional and your personal life so much easier. 21st century skills, we really value the role of collaboration. Collaboration around a table is just as important if you're a 5-year-old child working on a project as if you are a scientist attending COP26 in Glasgow right now, and you're dealing with really earth-changing challenges. If you can't work with colleagues and people around the table in a healthy, conducive manner, then you're not fit for the workplace. Communication, if you're sat at a negotiation table or you're sat at the dinner table, communication is key. Creativity, technology is going to replace many roles, I think it's fair to say. It's also going to bring a whole new raft of products and concepts to build on top of ridiculously clever technology. And humans have this inherent superpower, which is creativity. And if we harness that right and bring it to the table, coupled with innovation, then we do have this incredibly exciting future workplace. But if we don't create children or show them the skills they're going to need to get there, we're just not being fair to them. And as a final reminder, these characteristics of purposeful learning experiences, I would say it's this combination of being hands-on to engage your mind so that you are fully engaged mentally. And then, those things bring really important social and economic impact. 21st century skills is going to contribute to the industries and pioneering changes that the 21st century is going to need. We're going to need to create better job opportunities in existing industries. We're going to need to push for new job creation through industrial evolution or revolution. We're going to need to see new entrepreneurial opportunities spring up, and kids are going to need to be super resilient and flexible to do that. So they're going to need to bring all of those 21st century skills, and those skills will drive real social progress and economic change. And then all of that comes with the future jobs, and it comes with a sense for children to be globally competitive. So I think we in our individual markets, but also as an international education industry, have a responsibility to make sure that today's kids, whichever market they live in and go to school in, they're getting a sense of 21st century skills that are going to make them globally competitive. Now, what does that mean to me? From Lego Education's perspective, it's about how do we bring those incredible hands-on, purposeful play learning experiences to life through incredible bricks that, we're so lucky to have something that was created back in 1932 and still feels magic when you get in your hand and they're irresistible. But it's not just the bricks. So we have these wonderful bricks that, create this myriad of opportunities, but we layer on top of that curriculum so that we can engage kids in meaningful challenges related to the world around them. We bring in programming. So I mentioned that, we're working with hubs and motors and sensors. We want children to understand the language of digital, which is coding. So all of our solutions have the brick, they have curriculum, they have coding language, starting with very simple block-based code for kids in primary school, developing all the way up to text-based programming languages such as Python, because we want children who are going to work in the jobs of the future to both be able to build and also to make their build come to life. We bring in a ton of hardware such as the motors and the sensors so that you really can bring your creations to life. And finally, I said that the big important thing in any rollout is treating your teachers with the thorough respect of training them and preparing them and working with them to develop really exciting rollouts of big education modernization programs. I hope that in South Africa, you'll get a chance to see Lego Education in lots of the schools that are around you. I hope that you get a chance to send your kids to STEAM and robotics competitions such as First Lego League. We roll these out throughout the world. We see millions of kids a year come through our regional, national, and international and global contests. We start really young with First Lego League Discover for kids of 4 to 6. Then we have our sort of mini league with First Lego League Explore, which is looking at the primary sector. And then we go up to First Lego League with the Challenge. And that's really an amazing opportunity for kids outside of school as well as inside of school to get into teams focused on global annual challenges and work to solve really big, knotty problems. If you haven't seen a First Lego League competition, I guarantee you it will give you a jolt of energy and inspiration and belief in the future generation that sometimes in our cynical ways we can get a little bit removed from in the workplace. So please check out First Lego League. And then, I'll close here and sort of leave you with the message that, it is bricks, it's creativity, but it's committed to equipping educators and students with the capabilities and confidence they need to enable an innovation ambition to go out and attack their futures. So thank you very much for listening. I can't see if there are any questions on the line, but I'd love any feedback or any references that you might have for me.
Thank you so much for that, Tom. We actually do have a couple of questions. And one of the ones that's coming from Simon is Lego involved in helping, what is Lego doing in the metaverse space? Or is Lego doing anything in the metaverse space?
Metaverse in the sense of augmented reality and sort of super advanced technology, Simon?
Yeah, I would imagine that is the case.
Yeah. Well, I would say that we, within our STEAM segment for Lego Education, we can see that our solutions and tools are already being applied in classrooms that are thinking about artificial intelligence and AI. So starting to think about feeding your system and code that you develop to think and have a small brain. We can show our robotics working in that space. Then when you get into the space of kind of more augmented reality, I would direct you towards some of the Lego retail businesses products that you can find in all good toy stores. And that will have some super cool, clever AR and AI integration. So we're definitely, as a total Lego business, very aware of it, and it's things that we're involved in. And then from a Lego Education perspective, we want to, I guess, equip the scientists of the future to be super confident to go into that metaverse and to have the right language and the skills to play their full role in it. It's a good question, so thank you for it.
Yeah, and then I have another one.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, I think, I think in terms of the metaverse, obviously that's the latest and greatest phrase that's been floating around at the moment. But I think we must also not forget that when you talk about skills, there's two kinds of skills. There's digital skills, and then there's what we call transferable skills. So transferable skills are typically your traditional human skills. I think you spoke about analytical skills, problem solving, etc. So I think everybody focuses on the digital skills, which is cool, so coding, etc. But I think especially with the metaverse, I think kids and even adults, young adults, need to make sure that they are able to, that their emotional intelligence is strong enough, because bullying is quite prevalent as well in schools, universities as well. So I think it's important to make sure that those kinds of skills are also taught to our kids in the now and into the future as well. So digital skills very important, but I think the transferable skills and those human skills are also very, very important, especially getting into the metaverse.
Could not agree more, Alan. Yeah.
And then, and Alan, I mean, maybe you'd like to elaborate a little bit more exactly on that and how Future Proof does that in terms of linking those skills and bringing in the human factor of a coach, but then also how that individual then has that human coach to get them to be more employable with those transferable skills.
I think all the this is the third of this series that we're doing for this year, and we'll obviously continue the series again next year. I think Tom included and the previous speakers included are talking what we do, but we are actually the doers. So we would we would actually provide the strategist, the mentor, the advice, the support to the student, and by student I mean anybody from grade 9 and older. So the information is out there and people can try and do it themselves. But I think the comment I put in the note in the chat there was around the whole personal gym trainer. We've all tried to get six packs in our lives, and some of us have got it right and some of us haven't. But the ones that get it right are the ones that actually have those personal gym trainers. So we provide a strategist to each one of our students. We identify, what their strengths are. We identify which kinds of careers, they're best suited to. But very, very importantly, from the start, we actually introduce them to potential employers, maybe not for employment straight away, but for workplace experience, and to understand, what those future companies are looking for. I think one of the previous speakers was Neil Hill from Ford, South Africa. He's actually now a president for Ford Africa. The future of autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, it's on our doorstep. So what kinds of skills, do we actually need to have, in place for them? So we can take our students to people like Ford, for example, and look at what kinds of skills they're looking at. So providing and actually doing it and making sure that at the end of the year program or 2-year program with us, they are actually ready for the future.
Yeah, thanks for that, Alan. And then Tom, last question to you. I'm a bit mindful of time. What about exponential thinking? So how do we shift that thinking in students where creativity is great? And I think creativity has become such a buzzword over the years. But I think this question is more along the lines of creativity is great, but we want them to start thinking over and above that. And I think, how do we solve for that exponential thinking?
Well, that's a great question. And to be honest with you, though, I would think if you've got a natural curiosity, and you have an education system and a workplace, because I talk about this in my workplace, right? If you have an environment that fosters curiosity and encourages creative thinking and pushing of boundaries, then I think you naturally get towards something that I would understand as exponential thinking. And I think that has to come from sort of thought, the structural, the education system that's responsible for laying this out. And then I think fostering that confidence in children to think big, and giving them, that's why we believe so much in Lego education. It's a combination of, the digital skills, layering the 21st century skills around that, and starting to think big about ideas way beyond what may be in the textbook. That's when magic starts to happen in schools, isn't it? And we've seen it, it's when magic happens around a dinner table with kids, or it's when magic happens in a work environment, when you can kind of take off some of the day-to-day challenges and get curious and just sort of think beyond the norms. So I hope that exponential thinking is tied into creativity, curiosity, confidence, psychological safety. And when you've got those things locked down, that's when the good stuff happens.
Yeah. I think that ties it up quite nicely. Well, thank you so much, Tom. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
And only a pleasure. Maybe do you want to stop sharing on your side? I actually don't think we have anything more in terms of what I need to share. So thank you to everyone that's joined us for this evening. And we look forward to picking up the series again, I think from next year. I think let's see where we can take this. So thank you, everyone. Good evening.